Fox 2 presents Hancock and Kelley.
Good Sunday morning. Welcome to Hancock and Kelley on Fox 2, where we take on the top issues of the week. On the right, John Hancock.
Top of the morning.
On the left is Michael Kelley.
Happy Sunday.
And I'm Andy Banker. On the agenda, the return of a ritual unique to Missouri politics, the ham breakfast at the state fair. Issues on the burner include the Republican effort to eliminate a Democrat seat in Congress, and also Democrats now setting sights on ending the Republican supermajority in Jefferson City. Also, Kitty's back. A few years after she was run out of her tourism post, outgoing St. Louis County executive appoints her to a new tourism position, just days before anyone can stop him from doing it. The tensions between the St. Louis mayor and the police chief simmer again over a couple of very divisive issues, including police claims that the mayor disrespected a second police officer's funeral in a matter of months. And our quote of the week: as another magical theater season comes to a close in Forest Park, can the city's world-renowned outdoor musical theater, the Muni, save St. Louis? Also, the growing controversy over alleged police spying with flock cameras and a decision from St. Charles County Police to yank the cameras. And if you think St. Louis politics sometimes have you shaking your heads, we've got video of a new brawl at a meeting over a new baseball stadium for the Royals in Kansas City. But we begin with the political gold mine that is the annual ham breakfast at the Missouri State Fair. On the plate this year, the battle over Missouri Republicans' second congressional map in 3 years, passed at the urging of President Trump to eliminate a Democrat seat in Congress. Also, state Democrats sensing a surge that may turn back Republican dominance in the Missouri legislature come November. Here's Fox 2 Missouri Capitol reporter Mark Zinn.
The main political storylines from last year's governor's ham breakfast centered around redistricting, and this year's was no different.
He's done a good job. This is not about Emanuel Cleaver. This is just about redrawing our map.
Missouri Governor Mike Kehoe headlining the big political event at the state fair in Sedalia. The ham breakfast has been serving up political chops for more than 7 decades. One of the main courses on this year's plate, the rejection of 2 separate petition campaigns by Republican Secretary of State Denny Hoskins.
I'm 3 for 3 this week, still batting 1,000. I mean, the Western District Appellate Court's going to make their decision. The Missouri Supreme Court's going to make their decision, but I think we've got a good case.
Look, redistricting is an inherently political process. Missouri decided to redistrict the map, and I think that's going to stand.
There was also one notable Democrat in attendance Thursday. Democrat Congressman Emanuel Cleaver says this isn't his first ham breakfast, but admits this year's is different.
I am here now because the district was mean-spiritedly redrawn.
Another topic being discussed by attendees, the fallout from the historic defeats of Amendments 4 and 5, and what it all could mean for this November's election.
The voters were not happy with the way it was drafted, and they rendered their verdict, and I don't think it has any larger meaning than that.
Democrats are going to do unusually well. You're going to see a few more seats picked up in the Missouri General Assembly.
We've talked to a lot of Missourians afterwards, many at the state fair, who said, don't give up, keep going, keep trying.
Outside of the political theater, the fair continues, and all the fun will continue through this Sunday. In Sedalia at the state fair, I'm Mark Zinn.
Let's take the congressional map first.
All right.
Emanuel Cleaver, it's his district in Kansas City that's being drawn out at the behest of President Trump. A lower court has just ruled putting it to a vote of the people is unconstitutional, with the state Supreme Court now likely to review the case early next month. How do you see it?
Well, the precedent usually is pretty powerful, and the state Supreme Court has already ruled on this, not this precise question, but in this topic area in a way that favored the state, allowing the maps to be drawn by the legislature. So the court's on record with that. I kind of suspect this effort to put it on the ballot is going to fail.
Yeah, I'm hopeful that the people, over 300,000 Missourians, wanted to put this to the ballot. And
way more than 300,000.
Yeah, and typically when the voters put it to the ballot, they want to pass it, and they want the maps to be fair. Unfortunately, we have a governor who can only deliver for the President of the United States and not for the citizens of Missouri.
How do you answer that? I mean, is it right to thwart what Michael says is the obvious will of the people here? We don't want a 7-1 map.
It's a constitutional question. The argument that the state is making is that the purview to draw congressional boundaries rests with the state legislature. And, if they follow that legal reasoning, then they're going to rule that this thing can't go to a vote of the people.
Isn't that the rule?
The people have never voted on a congressional
Denny
map before.
Hoskins said you can turn in millions of signatures. It's just not allowed. That's the way it's set up.
Well, we'll see. The courts still have a chance to weigh in on this, and Denny Hoskins says that he's batting 1,000. That's not the case. Nearly everything that he's ever brought to the Supreme Court gets rejected. I'm hopeful that it'll go the same way and that the courts will bring some stability to this.
I think he's going to win it.
What about Democrats targeting the races that they say, Republicans may be vulnerable in this district, and we may win some back? They're not going to take over a majority in Jefferson City, right, in the legislature?
No.
But could they end the super majority? Can they win enough?
Yes, I think so. And the inertia across the country is headed the right way for Democrats. The Republicans are pushing failed policies and failed ideas. The voters continue to reject them across Missouri, and I think there are some districts, particularly in suburbs, across the state that could potentially go to the Democratic side, ending the supermajority that the Republicans have.
John?
Yeah, it's possible. I think Republicans, first of all, there aren't that many competitive state house races in the state. Close to 90% of them are foolproof. And we've elected some fools. But the ones that are competitive, this handful, I think the Democrats might pick up 3, 4, 5 House seats, potentially 1 state Senate seat. And supermajority, when you've got the governor, the reason you need a supermajority is to override governor vetoes. And, that's not going to be a problem here.
Could there be any backlash from the, if the will of the people, if they do not get to put this on the ballot, the redistricting, could it lead to Democrat losses in the state races?
No, I don't think so. I think the Republicans are in jeopardy. And if you listen to the governor and the former lieutenant governor, Peter Kinder, both didn't get the message on what voters have said. They're not listening to what the voters of Missouri said. They're continuing to want to push forward these billionaire propositions, and they're going to pay the consequences for it.
That's what I mean by Republicans keeping this off the ballot, the redistricting question. Could there be backlash against Republicans?
I don't think that. I don't think the tax vote or the initiative petition vote is going to be much of a factor in the general election this year. And certainly in 2 years, it's not even going to be on the radar.
Oh, we better move on. I got a little bit into the weeds there. St. Louis County Executive Sam Page has about 18 weeks remaining in his term, and he is certainly going out with a political bang. Page just appointed Kitty Ratcliffe to the Regional Tourism Board 2 years after that same board pushed her out as the region's tourism director. Ratcliffe led the region's tourism agency, now called Explore St. Louis, for more than 18 years. She retired under pressure a couple of years ago. Board members criticized her for weak convention sales and the convention center expansion, which went over budget and then was sharply curtailed from its original grandiose plans. Page appointed Ratcliffe ahead of a new law taking effect that would require the county council to approve the move. But this got in under the bell. Ratcliffe will serve a 4-year term. What's really going on here, John and Michael?
I think this is just spite by Sam Page wanting to make himself continue to be relevant. Really, this appointment should be made by the next county executive. The other questions I have is, after 20 years of Kitty Ratcliffe, where we saw tourism go down in the state of Missouri, he wants to put her back in there when we're going a new direction? Doesn't make any sense to me. I also don't understand, when you get run out of a job, why you'd want to come back. Is it simply to grind axes? Don't you have other things to do in retirement?
John?
I feel sorry for the guy that's running the convention center now because the person he replaced, who was forced out, is now overseeing him. That's going to be a contentious relationship. You can't help it. Sam Page, he's like a guy who goes to a party, Andy. And you're walking and enjoying the punch bowl. You got the Fizzlies in there, maybe a little apple juice. And on his way out the door at 10:30, he drops a couple of turds in the punch bowl. And that's what this is basically like.
I think that's the first time we had the T word on Hancock and Kelley. Thank you, John.
You bet.
The growing nationwide controversy over flock cameras comes home to roost in St. Charles County. The county's police chief has had the department's 28 flock cameras that read the license plates of passing vehicles turned off after an internal audit revealed an employee with more than 40 years of law enforcement experience abused the system for personal use. That worker has resigned. License plate readers, LPR cameras, do help solve crimes. St. Charles County will still use 150 LPR cameras from a provider called Genetech, but the flock cameras are gone.
Yeah, we're getting rid of the system flock. We have other license plate readers, a product that we're much more satisfied with, that has safeguards built into it, that has more than one person involved in the process to make sure it's used for legitimate law enforcement reasons.
Now, the Genetech cameras still in use have more stringent requirements. For instance, anyone requesting license plate information must first get approval from a police investigator. John and Michael, there have been calls for all-out LPR bans across the United States. Is that merited?
No, provided that they have particular regulations and provisions, like the police chief said we have with LPRs. They serve an important purpose. And the reality is these are throughout the country. These flock cameras are problematic. And the fact that a rogue employee can go and do what they did for personal matters needs to be stopped, needs to be prosecuted, needs to be punished, to the point where this chief says we're not going to have them.
Yeah, I think this is a process problem and not a technology problem. These things have been proven to help track down criminals. That's important. We need to track down criminals. But there need to be policies and procedures in place so that they can't be abused. And when somebody abuses it, they got to pay the price and lose their job.
So to come on Hancock and Kelley, St. Louis's mayor and the police chief going at it again.
To hear more, listen to the podcast. Just search for Hancock and Kelley.
St. Louis's mayor and police chief reignite their feud. It began with the chief chiding the mayor for allegedly talking about the hot-button issues of pay and benefits for young officers to a group of young officers at a fellow officer's funeral. The mayor says the chief mischaracterized that conversation. This after the mayor skipped the funeral of an officer who died on duty in April. The mayor was at a publicly unannounced conference in Boston at that time. And then this past Wednesday, the mayor went after the chief at the police board meeting for unilaterally agreeing to a surge of federal officers to fight crime in St. Louis.
The chief, as the CEO, is making these decisions, or has, without board guidance. The community is demanding to know who's making these decisions.
What I'm trying to do is really try to keep politics out of policing, and I'm trying to make sure that we can do our job operationally and protect these officers.
The chief says he informed the mayor of the federal surge before it was finalized, but neither she nor her staff raised any objections until the meeting Wednesday. The chief no longer answers to the mayor. Instead, a 6-member state-appointed board of police commissioners oversees the department, with the mayor being the only non-appointed member. Is this an issue with the mayor? Is this an issue with the chief? Or is it the return of the control of the state control of the police department, or all of the above?
It's getting old, isn't it? To watch this fight every week that's taking place on the most critical issue the region faces, which is crime in our major urban area. I can understand the mayor's frustrations and worries about concern of ICE being a part of an agreement. The reality is what the federal surge was is something that's been going on for decades in St. Louis. Partnerships with the FBI to help us fight crime. I think the mayor's swinging at the wrong pitch on that. I think she makes a valid point if she wants to make it about ICE. As it relates to...
This is not ICE. This is the FBI and the ATF, and more procedural.
Right, and it just seems to be fighting for fighting's sake. Can't these folks find some way to work together? Look, I get that she doesn't like the fact that there's a statewide board that's running the police department. It is what it is. The state's the sovereign. It's time to move forward. It's also time for the police union and the police chief and the police board to communicate with the mayor. This is nonsense.
John?
Yeah, look, the FBI, the ATF coming in is a good thing. They're particularly focused on gun crimes, which is something the mayor has talked about a lot over the course of her career. She should be applauding this additional law enforcement support coming in. And, you know, as it relates to the squabbling back and forth, what we know about what happened at that funeral, this was an officer who had committed suicide.
Right.
Young officer. And he had his colleagues, his brothers were there. And I don't know what was said, but I know that those officers were offended by what was said. And it escalated because it got, aired in the public. But, there's a time and a place to talk about police compensation, an officer's funeral is probably not the best place.
Walmart is rolling out green technology to deliver to your home instead of having a gas-powered vehicle drop off what you buy. Battery-powered drones will do the job. A drone company called Wing has pitched Walmart delivery plans in St. Charles, Maplewood, Kirkwood, with a goal of providing service to at least a dozen cities in the St. Louis area. Wing is owned by Google's parent company. The drones would lower deliveries of up to 5 pounds to the ground using a winch. Proponents say the drones do not transmit live feeds of any images. Wing has already made more than 1 million home deliveries in other markets, but the idea is facing modest pushback here over concerns about the high-pitched buzzing noise that the drones make and a potential danger to birds. John and Michael.
I mean, come on, we're living in the Jetsons age. This is what happens. The horse didn't like it when they invented the car. Times they are changing, Andy. We've got to get used to this. It's happening throughout the country, just like Uber, just like Waymo. This is the future. It's going to be here. Let's get it past it.
John.
They're worried about the noise, Andy. They should come to my house. Gus loses it every time a package is delivered. Yeah, it's terrible. Now, I do know one of these things delivered a dress into somebody's swimming pool the other day. That could be a problem. But this is, this is the wave of the future.
I thought, never mind. I thought you were going to mention, hey, the drones don't do what the birds do to your windshield.
No, that's also true.
Still to come on Hancock and Kelley, our quote of the week and video that may bring St. Louis politics to mind. Things getting heated, maybe a little too heated, in the debate over a new baseball stadium in Kansas City. If you think St. Louis politics get a little wild, Kansas City may be raising the bar. A worker at Kauffman Stadium, where the Royals play baseball, was arrested at a heated city council meeting on a proposal for a new stadium for the Royals in downtown KC. The man is also the leader of the St. Louis-based Missouri Workers Center, a group that organizes low-wage workers to win good jobs, and its leaders say fight racism. Earlier in the meeting, the man had complained about low pay for stadium workers. He was issued a summons and for trespassing and assault. John and Michael just not here. Why stadium such a lightning rod?
Well, I mean, this guy's a protester, and he's an organizer, and I mean, this is what some of these folks do. They go and to disrupt and create a scene and, draw attention. That's what he did here.
But if taxpayers are going to be putting some of the money up for the stadium, aren't the workers right to be saying,
that's
hey,
an extremely valid point. And if the taxpayers are going to have it in there, these should be wages that people can make a living off of. But behavior like that is not how you win friends and influence people, and it's surely not the way that you move your issue forward.
Consider our quote of the week as a reminder that St. Louis maybe is not a lost cause. The Muni is wrapping up its 108th season in Forest Park. For more than a century, the historic outdoor municipal theater has brought top stage performers in St. Louis. There truly is no place like it. This year's shows included Meet Me in St. Louis, Hairspray, Newsies, drawing crowds of up to 11,000. The head of Greater St. Louis, Inc., Ron Kitchen, says the Muni should serve as a reminder of the assets St. Louis still has, historic, affordable neighborhoods, the art scene, and more. He says, quote, the Muni is the perfect example of how our region is already winning with cultural institutions cities twice our size would envy. John and Michael, he's saying that we have the stuff. We have the opportunity. Harness them. Why can't we?
Well,
is he right about that?
Yes.
We have the makings, right?
He is right about it. And we do have, from a cultural standpoint, this city is pretty awesome. You think about Forest Park, and it's bigger than Central Park in New York. The Muni, there's no place like it anywhere. We have one of the finest symphony orchestras in the world here in St. Louis. Stefan Deneuve out there waving the wand around.
Still.
Yeah, and I mean, there is a lot. The bones of this place are very good. What we're lacking is leadership, organization, the mishmash of governments. We've got a lot of problems, crime, but the bones of St. Louis are very, very good.
Cosign, cosign, cosign.
Couldn't he have said this 50 years ago?
Well, of course, and we can say it all the time. And that park in particular is full of assets that we should really be focused on when you build out from that park with everything that's going on. My biggest problem with the Muni is that it's about 800 degrees when you go there in the summertime. I wish we'd move it to September and October when we have the shows.
Who's going to shake us from the giant slumber that St. Louis is in, right? That's still the question.
Well, we meet change with a ball bat.
Final thoughts are next. First, Drone Fox over Belle Reve Country Club, hosting its first mega golf event since the unforgettable 2018 PGA Championship. The winner of the BMW Championship, being played there now, will be crowned in St. Louis later today. Final thoughts, Big Mike.
Yeah, to the members of Belle Reve and all the golf fans that are out there today and all week long that are making us look so good across the country, thank you for what you've done. You've made St. Louis proud.
John.
Yeah, and if you don't think there's any money in this town, spend a few hours out at Belle Reve watching those 35,000. There's a lot of money standing on the sidelines out there.
I love it. Maybe they can help make us more than just the beauty.
Let's do it.
St. Louis, right? Remember, if it's Sunday in St. Louis, it's Hancock and Kelley on Fox 2. We'll see you next week.